Okay, here's Sarah. Welcome, everyone. We'll start in just a few minutes as we have a few more folks coming in on site. So just be patient with us, and thank you so much. You may need to get close, and Matt will let us know. think I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay. Okay, everyone, we still do have a few more participants coming in, but I'm going to go ahead and get started and welcome everyone here today. I'm going to go over just a few of the logistics for today's workshop for both streaming and on-site participants. Please know that I have my iPhone handy. If any of our streaming participants have any issues whatsoever, please do email me. Please remember to silence your cell phones for any of our on-site participants. Please note that the email address for our streaming participants has changed slightly. It is aidbproject@gmail.com. Ignore the password that I sent out for that. That was for my benefit only, and Matt has reset that. So please also note that if you want to take advantage of the live streaming, the real-time link for the cart is www.streamtext.net/player?event=AIDB. And this information was sent to you all via email, so please utilize these services. And remember that all documents can be found at www.aidb.org. Now, one thing I've already failed to do is introduce myself. So excuse me, my name is Jessica Edmiston. I'm the director of the Birmingham Regional Center for the Alabama Institute for Deaf and Blind and the coordinator of the Alabama Initiative for Children and Youth who are deaf-blind. And we are extremely excited to have each of you here today on site and our participants across the nation. We have participants as far away as Alaska, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and we're extremely excited to be offering this presentation today, not only in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, but again, nationwide. Regarding today's workshop, none of this would be possible without the U.S. Department of Education Office of Special Education Programs. As you know, AIDB hosts the Alabama's Deaf Blind Project, again, which is the Alabama Initiative for Children and Youth who are deaf-blind. That's funded under the Office of Special Education Programs, and we partner with sister deaf-blind projects across the state. Real pleased to have Georgia with us today. Mississippi is a great partner along with Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, again, Louisiana. So we partner nationwide with other deaf-blind projects in addition to the National Center on Deaf Blindness and the Helen Keller National Center. So please know if you're a participant from Alabama that you can reach out to us in regards to your children birth to 21 who have dual sensory loss. And if you're from another state participating today, please understand that your state deaf-blind projects are there to serve you, and all resources regarding information about the state deaf-blind projects can be found on the National Center for Deaf Blindness. I would also like to recognize and thank some of the internal staffers who have made today possible. Thank you to the AIDB Tuscaloosa Regional Center, Robbie Stewart, for allowing us to host the workshop here today. Matt Fuller, I call him our technology master guru extraordinaire. Add any other type of compliment to it. He's wonderful. And Ellen and Brian Bowman and their son Andrew, who will participate in some of today's presentation, along with our parent coach, Veronica Tuck. And then to Tuscaloosa County, they were really instrumental in wanting to learn more about dual sensory loss and bringing Dr. Van Dijk here today, and they were part of the assessment process yesterday with Andrew, and many of the participants, occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech therapists, etc., are here today, and they're headed by Dr. Patricia Powell. So I want to ensure that we thank them for their time and their service. And then lastly, really none of this would be possible without the vision and leadership of our president, Dr. John Massia, who you'll hear from shortly. And I want to make sure that I read exactly what I've written about him, because his drive and passion, especially in the area of dual sensory loss, is why the Alabama Initiative for Children and Youth Who Are Deafblind is housed within the Institute today, and why we bring such renowned presenters like Dr. John Van Dijk here to Alabama. And I really, again, I've never met anyone who has the passion and the drive to excellence and wants to ensure that all children with sensory loss, but especially those with dual sensory loss, are provided with the individualized expert care, education, and necessary skills to ensure independence and a fulfilling quality of life. He and Dr. Van Dijk's paths have crossed in the past, and you'll see that each are cut from the same cloth, and that cloth is creativity and innovation. So please, if you will, join me in welcoming Dr. Massia, who will introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Jessica, and good morning. Can everybody hear me okay, or are you accessing interpreters well? Okay, great. Such a pleasure to be here today and to see my friend Jan Van Dijk. Dr. Van Dijk began his career as a teacher of individuals who were deaf in the Netherlands, becoming involved in children who were deaf-blind after the rubella pandemic in the country. Dr. Van Dijk would study deaf-blindness at Perkins in Massachusetts, and then later be recognized as a pioneer in the field of dual sensory loss. On his return from the United States, Dr. Van Dijk developed a program tailor-made for this group of specialized children. Ideas such as memory books, calendars, and coactive movements are still applied today, and their validity is strongly supported by modern neuropsychological research. Dr. Van Dijk became the first professor in deaf and deafblind education in the Netherlands, graduating both in special education and clinical psychiatry. He's internationally renowned. He presents all over the world, pioneering the assessment and teaching processes for children with dual sensory loss and other disabilities, much of what you will learn here today. Since 1958, and I'm afraid to say this because he looks so great, we were just joking that I'm aging really poorly. You know, I'm going to go home and dye my hair. Since 1958, the grandfather of deafblindness and the father of coactive movement strategies has been helping families and professionals to better understand and serve children with complex needs, autism, and behavior disorders through child-guided assessments, anticipation cues for communication, and calendar systems. In the early 1960s, Dr. Van Dijk was asked to assess children with sensory impairments and multiple disabilities. He found that existing assessment tools were not useful because they assumed that the children had been exposed to typical experiences, and he felt that children with sensory impairments and multiple disabilities, due to the very nature of the impairment, did not have the opportunity to experience the world in a typical manner. And I think that's very, very important to his philosophy. Dr. Van Dijk has dedicated his career to helping children who have multiple disabilities in addition to deafblindness. For his extensive international work and innovative approach, he has received both the Anne Sullivan and Deafblind International Distinguished Service Awards and was knighted by the Queen of the Netherlands. Of course, I followed his career achievements, have received input and guidance from him over the years, and I consistently have encouraged staff, our staff, to learn from and to implement his strategies. We at IDB have a genuine passion for individuals with dual sensory loss and complex communication needs, which is why housing the Deafblind Project, known as the Alabama Initiative for Children and Youth Who are Deafblind, within AIDB was so extremely important to us. It's why we have a continuum of programs for individuals who are deafblind within our K-12 schools, adult education and rehabilitation facility, EH Gentry, and why it is important that we provide outreach services statewide in partnership with our regional centers, like here in Tuscaloosa and in Birmingham, along with other deafblind projects and sister agencies nationwide. You've received materials on AIDB and our various projects, and please reach out to us if we can be of assistance. AIDB's outreach services include bringing in one of the most influential individuals in deafblindness to Alabama. I'm personally thrilled to have you here, Dr. Van Dijk, and I thank you for so willingly sharing your expertise with us today. It's an honor to introduce to you Dr. Jan Van Dijk.
So, good morning, all of you. And John, thank you so much for your wonderful words. I'm speechless, so thank you for being here. The thing is, all things you said are very true. Are not only nice words, but when I listen to my long career, I'm very grateful that I can stay so long in this fascinating field. And people ask me sometimes, why are you doing this? Because you live in a wonderful country, you are a farmer's boy, as you obviously can see, and why don't you look after your cows, your sheep, your goats, or whatever you have? I do in between. But the main reason for staying in this field is because I'm nosy. I want to know all the problems we encounter in our daily life. And as we'll see, I'm very happy that we are at the opportunity to film yesterday, only a few hours ago, wonderful family, a wonderful, complicated young man, and that we can use it. And when I'm going home and laying in my bed, struggling with the jet lag, I said, you know, what is really going on in the brain, in the mind of this young man? So when I started, years back with the rubella epidemics, and I saw, let's be honest, the poor outcome of the education. And I see in one of the research projects I was involved in, they are now in the 40s and in the 50s. And when I go home, they live in group homes, or or sometimes even in institutions. And when I go home and drive home and think, I mean, I'm talking about 80 former students of mine, and I think, when I had to start over again by leading the education of this adult middle-aged people, the outcome would be different. The outcome would be different. I would have done differently. What is the insight? What happened in my brain that I'm so convinced, of course, we brought some to language, to communication. But many of them are still functioning below their potential, their behavior, their mental health problems, which are enormous. So my second thing, and you heard that, I took up psychiatry again. I took up neurobiology again after all those years, because, as I hope to show you today, there are new ways. There are new perspectives. There are new approaches possible. And as a matter of fact, you won't believe it, I am back where I started as teacher of the deaf 177 years ago. I'm back in the classroom. I'm back in the classroom to try out new ideas, to try for children who completely got stuck and nobody knows, sitting there in their own little world. And I approach them differently. Oh yes, as I will show you today, the basic philosophy is still the same. Finding the individual strength in a person. But now we know much better how to find them. I'm affiliated for the last 15 years with a hospital in Austria. And not so much because that's hard, but for deaf people with multiple disabilities. We study fMRIs. We study functional behavior and use objective measures from neurobiology. And this new field has opened for me new insight in people with multisensory impairment, not to forget the deaf. And I just told my good friend John that one of the psychiatrists is working on her PhD and showing very clearly that deaf people respond differently to medication. And that's why so many deaf people are wrongly medicated for their many depressions and psychosis. My friends, there is a world out there of sciences, and there's the world of you and me working with these clients. Who bridges that gap? Tell me a person in the world who tries to apply the findings, the role, and I've made APH coming out, the role of the emotional brain, the limbic system. And I will speak about and could demonstrate with Andrew the role of the mirror neuron system. Particularly in anxiety, we see in deaf people the growth in volume of the amygdala, for heaven's sake. So when you are deaf and threatened, abused, that organ telling to fly or to approach, the volume growth. You understand now. You understand why some of the deaf people, when you look at them, they blow up. And we know now that the facial recognition, the facial perception of deaf people is different from ours. And part of what they perceive on your face, information goes immediately to the limbic, to the emotional brain. Not with us. We always make a loop via our cognitive functions. I'm fascinated I'm fascinated what's going on. There are 800 articles out now on the mirror neuron system. I think I read at least 200. And I always think about kids, about the adults, about the parents, about the enormous importance of child-mother interaction. I know now why certain methods are failing and disappearing, but you in the classroom are still stuck with it. All these fascinating things, which I'm very happy that I'm able to follow these and be part of it, stimulate still research on that. What's happening with the boy who fled some Eastern Europe countries, was picked up by the police in Vienna, no language, no name, no nothing, deaf, and he's developing language. How fast, how does it go, etc. And we do not follow. We follow it by taking the brain scans and see how the brain differentiates and makes his progress possible. Where does it stop? What can we do? Well, that's the reason I'm still here. That's the reason I'm still here. And I would like young people, young scientists, go away, get out of your laboratory, come in the classroom, participate in the teacher's action, because it's all about improving quality of life. And that's what humanity is all about. And that keeps me going. But also my reward is that perhaps new perspectives can be developed and help you in the classroom. Because I think I've seen more classrooms and children in your own country than you all together. I see them. And sometimes, despite the very complex situation in which you are, think about the intravenous system, it's a step forward. But sometimes I see that mistakes are repeated. Why are you still doing the things when there is no proof? That word, evidence-based. Evidence-based is always on top of my head. You know why? Because I've been following false prophets. Waving the flag. This is the therapy. And move with the child. Do these exercises. Take a fine gold diet. Give them medication. Do this, do that. Sit in the sun. Wash their hair 3 times a day. And everything will be good. Now, you see, if you look to my library, I see, oh my gosh, yes, I did this and this. I did the Capert method and this. Oh, yes. Where are they? It's gone because it was not effective. It had no evidence. And I used to say, when you go to a doctor and he said, well, I have a pill and it will help you. And then he said, what's the effect of the pill? The doctor will say, well, I don't know, but I think it's good for you. I think you turn your back. You say, when you are something that prescribed, you want to know that there is research behind it. There is evidence that it works. And unfortunately, in our work, so costly for the parents, for your own life, there's some little evidence behind it. Oh yes, I know it is hard. I know it is hard. But doesn't mean when it is hard that we don't need it. We need strong, solid method to rely upon. And when we don't have the evidence, please tell it. He said, like I will do it. I will tell, well, this is an approach, but I have very little, only my gut feelings that it will help. I will tell you that. So that's an introduction. But the basic thing still is there. And like an architect, or when you want to build your house, you need a blueprint. You take an architect and you have a plan. So obvious. We need a plan. For those children we are dealing with, when you start teaching them, when you start educating them, you need a plan. The architect has his computer now even in 3D print. Do we have a print to look to those children and also adults? When I started out as a young psychologist, as a big institution for deaf, I had a bike because it was a huge campus. And I had my test on the back of my baggage carrier. And I had only one elastic. I don't know why I didn't buy two, but always halfway was a bump. Then I lost my case. And all the pictures and all the beads and everything was always so. When I was 25 years at the Institute, they did an act, me grabbing, a car coming on the pathway to get all my pictures in order. That was always my problem. And when I start with those guys, coming from the field of the deaf, and they had of course some vision because of cataracts removed. They got my picture, they hold them in the light, and they were swallowing them. I said, but that's not the purpose, for heaven's sake. That test got $6,000, Come on, you cannot swallow it, And when I give them to string beads, I said, you do follow me. Yeah, they were sitting, like this. I said, you are not a pendulum. Come on, string the beads. That's still going on. Untrained psychologists still do these things. And when they did paper folding, halfway through they put them in the mouth. So gradually, my case became smaller and smaller and smaller. My bike got older and older and older. And I walked in. And I said to the father of Andrew, he looked to me and said, I said, yes, I have my instrument with me. My eyes. My eyes, my observation skills are my instruments. And I have more. I have my face. And I have my voice, my voice, my voice. Rhythm is so important. I have my voice, my voice. And I have my touch. I have my touch. I have my odor. I have my smell. I have all the senses with me, free of charge. And that's very important in America. Free of charge. You understand that? You have it all with you. Changing is anything more interesting than watching the human face? Is there anything more interesting than hearing the modulation of the human voice? Sometimes I see the visiting teachers sweating like crazy with all their goodies running, running in, throwing at the kid. Everybody's exhausted after half hour. I think you know what I'm talking about. I was the same. Throwing things at kids, one after another. You have your iPad, you have your laptop, and you throw technology on them. And I say, what do you want to reach? What's that? What's the purpose of it? Everybody gets excited and overstimulated after you have left. The parents are happy that you are gone. And then another one is ringing on the door. And you think that scattered brain of your student is able to integrate it all. If so, he was in a normal school. And even there, they have problems in that. When I was going to write an early intervention curriculum, it would be a different kettle of fish. Nothing of that, sorry. Interaction, as you will see, what a mother of means for this 80-year boy. Okay, so, but you need something to write down. We need to break down a little bit the areas. Okay, let's have, okay, there we go. For deaf and blinds, I'm sorry for that, but my webmaster is a civil engineer, has a PhD in that, but he has difficulties with the grammar. But apart from that, he's a great help. May I have the first slide? Okay. Well, after what I have said and introduced you today to assessment, you may ask, okay, we listen very nice until 4 o'clock, and then we are gone. What this guy is telling us is true. Is it true? He preaches the gospel, but does he believe in his own religion? So the big word is always reliability. And that's hard. And the butcher cannot sample his own meat. And I cannot sample or judge, evaluate, assess my own tests. So I have a wonderful colleague with whom I work many, many years already together, producing. That's Catherine Nelson from Utah. And she has students, and I no longer. And together we try to establish reliability of the assessment approach. Everybody has that next to bed. But I think there are now 50 colors of gray or something like that. Because it's all written nicely in this book, and more importantly, there are 2 demonstration videos. So when this came out 5 years ago, Kathy decided to introduce her students with the assessment approach, which is the topic of today. And she said, can my students, including a parent, learn the approach, let's call it the approach, in this way that the basic domains are met. And that there is an agreement between experts, 3 experts, and the findings of these 18 subjects which administered the assessment to students. When I submitted this to the Dutch Psychological Association, they were very skeptical. They said, how is it possible that an assessment instrument is there without a very strict protocol? But I think when they looked to the videos, and finally they said, okay, for the time being, we recognize this as a valuable and a valid instrument to use for children with multisensory impairment. Okay, I have the next one. The traditional testing I already described anecdotically what they were like. Difficulties with testing conditions. In rooms where they are unfamiliar with, understandable. All the instruments do not take in account the sensory loss and the deprivation of the children. I'm not saying that all instruments are worthless. I tell you something. In the late 60s, I went to Australia to do research on this rubella population. And I tested with the group there in Melbourne, 81 rubella deaf and deafblind children. Okay. And I used some traditional, for instance, motor test. Is the child able to hold a crayon? Can he make a circle? Can he put a marble in a bottle? And that sort of thing. Some children didn't have an idea and throw the bottle and were swallowing the marbles. But some of them managed and got in 1 or 2. The same with beads, stringing, etc. Okay. You cannot build an IEP on that. But I returned 14 years later and retested all the children, most of the children. Some of them left the country, etc. And to my surprise, some of the tests which we administered when the kids was 4 or 5 years were strong predictors, for instance, for language and emotional development. So for research purposes, trying to get as many data as possible is fine. And it has surprised me that, let's say, a simple test as this, when the child at 5 had no clue how to use the hands, predicted 14 years later the ability to use sign language. You think the brain matures, that cannot be true. So I'm the last one to say throw away traditional tests, although they are not constructed for them, still some items are valuable. But again, for developing IEP, it's not enough. Okay, that's about the instruments. About the norms. Where does the child function? And we all know from blind children that, fortunately, there are tests with norms. For deaf children, are strong tests with norms. But what is the norm for that blind children, apart from, let's say, the Kalia-Souza scale? It's very hard to find a homogeneous group to establish your reliability on. So, no norms, I'm sorry. Then, the very important thing is, and I think that is the key thing, it's child-guided. You always, as we will do, we always ask the parents, what is the child's interest, or the teacher? Because when the child has interest in something, it means that the brain is able to process that information. When the child is interested in the electric toothbrush, holding it, it shows that the area of vibration in the brain is triggered by this stimulus. And it is rewarding. It's always the thing, what is rewarding for the child? Child-guided means, what can you find in the child behavior, what is rewarding? In other words, what is connected with the rewarding system? The nucleus accumbens. That's our rewarding system in the brain. If the child is not interested, and the parents know, no, not interested in television, not interested in iPod, then you know that part, the visual part, the structuring of pictures is not processed properly. It's a very important axioma that the interest of the child shows the strong part in brain. And we'll see that with Andrew. When I sing, he comes with his ear. So we know that the auditorial area and the emotions to go with it, the emotions of my voice, is processed as rewarding because you can see it elicits a big smile. That is child guidance. Looking for parts of the brain which function well. And they function well, you can see, when they are rewarding. When my voice would throw him off, probably he had been threatened by a harsh voice. Even traumatized by a dog or somebody yelling at him. God forgive it. Understand that. Understand that everything has to be a rewarding element. And I think one of you said, should then we not force a little bit to be interested? And then you will get a contrary effect. Anxiety. Wow. We do now stress measures. Objective. And that's one I think I've seen thousands of kids. And I thought I can see when they are stressed. I can see that. In your boy, his eyebrows goes up. I see the breathing changing. Until the moment, yes, there are stress symptoms. Until the moment we, and also Kathy from Utah, we measured the stress hormone. Taking saliva from the cheek and sending them to the lab. And in situations, particularly in transition, going from one class to another, one teacher to another, one person to another, we see peaks of stress. Even so, when one of my students sent this into the laboratory, the doctor who was in charge called up and said, "What are you doing, for heaven's sake, with those kids? That's not normal." So under your very own eyes, the children are suffering. And you don't say, "Oh, I see that." Perhaps a mother as you are, perhaps, but I missed out. When I see them on the tape, just going from one classroom to another, waiting for the taxi, measure. Getting in the school bus in the morning, it is a disaster. And not is only stress a very uncomfortable feelings, as we all know, it destroys the brain. It destroys the brain. If you have to learn, remember our days in high school and college, under stress, tomorrow I must have A+, otherwise I lose my scholarship. Forget it. Oh, I know it. And you're awake. If you're awake, because in sleeping, information is stored in the brain. So if you sleep bad, under influence of stress, you have forgotten completely. Stress destroys the brain's learning ability. Well, knowing this means that my child-guided approach is really a help, a panacea, to prevent as much as possible stress. Stress, I mean negative stress, also positive stress. Stress puts the whole chemical construction of your body upside down, in particular the brain. Very much so. If you are self-stressed, doesn't work that morning in a classroom and you blame your kids. You blame your kids and you are completely under stress. You respond in a threatening way. We see that a lot with deaf people. Ones who have experience with deaf. I always, when I was a teacher of the deaf, I came in. Are you angry? Yeah, I'm angry. I'm not angry. Why do you think I'm angry? You look a little bit stern. There's sensitivity for you being in what mood you are. The sensitivity is so different. It means that deaf and deaf blindness means a different neurological system. Positive and negative. Deaf people read your face, oh boy, you cannot hide anything from them. They say, you're good. Good man, like deaf. How do you know I like that? Can see. Huh? Does it mean when you have a deaf, that's my new term, deaf unfriendly face? Who has the most conflict with psychopathic deaf? Wow. You look to the staff. Yeah. We are people with deaf, unfriendly faces. Number one, they cause anxiety in deaf people. When I tell this to deaf people, yes, I can see that. I can see that. That the way they perceive faces and the emotions connected with it is different. I can show with the scans. Everything where you want the child to be motivated and to learn should be start with their interest, because then it's rewarding. Then it is rewarding. If teaching is no fun, and you don't laugh, and you don't smile, and when you are not enthusiastic, take a day off. Take a day off. You understand it, because one of the parents I met years back, she was in Disneyland, Disney World, a hostess. Wonderful, America. And when there are days, I've been told, of the months that ladies do not feel very well. And they got a free day. Because as a hostess, in Disneyland World, you have to smile. And you cannot pretend. So when you felt, you like that idea, you felt uncomfortable, well, it is not true, but it's a nice story anyhow, you got a free day off. But it shows that in order to rapport with people, you should be positive. We all know all the depressive mother who has a difficult thing to connect with the people. Okay, so that is child-guided. Looking, always finding to try the child's interest. In other words, finding the good functioning parts of the brain. Because we go for the strength Don't try to repair the weakness, because that's so much frustration. The approach, as you will see when we talk about Andrew, is fluid. I don't have a structured order, because when I see that the child's interested in his bottle to get some liquid, I play with the bottle, right? And when I see that he wants to be, that it will be filled, I join in and take the child to the kitchen or whatever. And if we find in the kitchen a dustbin with flip-flop, 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 flip, then we play with the dustbin. Everything is almost literally following the child. So I've been assessing on a parking lot in Austin, because the child who did I assess in a seminar room did not want to go in. Unfortunately, the cameraman had very long cables, and he wants to get in the car, and he was pulling the doors, and I had my car keys from my own car home, and they gave to me. He tried once and flip, he threw them away. Immediately, his sense of touch told him they were the wrong car keys. We removed the car a little bit on a big, huge parking lot, and he went for it. And he was searching in a systematic way and found the parents' car. Fortunately, people could watch it and say, that is literally following the child. I've been assessing under the parent bed. In Australia, I've been assessing in a haystack where the child felt comfortable in the barn. Follow the child. You cannot always do it, I understand, but where the child is comfortable, as you will see when we go, and I'll show you a full assessment of Iris, the best thing is what we did yesterday, go to the home. At least in your assessment, do it once. Give the child all the chances to show his potential. If you have to compete with the room of a hospital, God forbid it, or in your testing room, or at a school, that's not fair. Give the child a chance to show his best. And he does that when he is at ease, and at ease is most of the time home. And then look at the process, how you build up from scratch to, as you will see, from holding each other's hand, you touching and singing and touching. And at a certain moment, the child starts touching and moving his hand. You build up, and you will see a lot of examples of you build up a learning process in small steps, and you follow that process where it gets stuck, or can you take it a little bit further? Okay? The last thing will not surprise you. Summarize, as we will go through today, the assessment in terms of strength. I don't know whether there are parents here, but oh my gosh. I have read hundreds of reports. The child function is 18 years old. At the 6-month-old level, he is unable to sit, to chew, to poop, to do, to etc., 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 etc. Thank you, Mom. My fee is $2,000. The last child I saw on holidays, with my new intervention, is an autistic boy. Both parents are in psychiatry. I read the 300 pages report. They have to pay everything themselves because they don't follow them. We know our colleague, blah, 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 will you see my child, blah, blah, blah. They always came up, your child belongs to the spectrum, and he should have a structured environment. I asked the teacher and the mother, you've been to all these wonderful places. Do you know what to do with your child now? You know what the answer was? 3 people crying. 3 people crying. Big tears. No. We don't know what to do. He always asks for the same DVD, He sits there, plays it, and when we approach him, he pushes us away. It's the same DVD. That's the only thing he does. Is that all your expertise that nobody could bring you a little bit further? No. When there is not done proper assessment, you bring not the child any further. Because from formal test or formal observation to the actual practice, you have to try yourself. I brought a drum. And I was drum. And I gave him a drum. And after 5 minutes, we're drumming together. And then I had that little toy of hammering on the pegs, and I was hammering on the pegs. And he had one there, and I did, using my deafblind skills, hand under hand. You will see that on the new DVD. Never been there. You can only advise when you do it yourself, when you try out, when you use your brain. And said, when the child, what does he like from the DVD? The rhythm, full marching music. I thought when he likes rhythm, that must be rewarding. So I brought the drum. Of all these wisecracks in Holland, nobody thought about that. They gave the ADOS one thing after another, but nobody thought, well, drumming and playing together. I think I have even that DVD with me. Hammering on the peg together. And you like that? Yes, we do it together. You only discover the strength when you are doing it with the child. Otherwise you don't. You must feel flesh and blood. You must feel the anxiety of your son. Back up. Ask the mother. Always mother, father, not to forget. Sensitive nerves, there are sometimes. Observe them first. Don't jump to the child. Wait. Wait and see how they do it. I am a copycat. That's the only thing I can do. And I see how the mother touches. Kisses. And wait and see. There. So, in this way, so he starts kissing my finger. Aha. So we are connected. If we have no connection, no way I'm going to get involved because my result will be false. You understand that? Sometimes I have trained for years and years students to do that. And sometimes I see that they don't have it. And then I say it in my own way to the young ladies. I said, I'm sorry, you have chosen the wrong track, but you are beautiful. I'm sure the bank will hire you. Sorry, when you don't have it, somebody asked me, I think yes, he said, can you learn it? Yes. To an exception. We have also research. Teachers can learn. Recently, if you follow us a little bit, we have put 6 recent articles from students for PhD in journal GYB journal, including parents program who don't have it. And sometimes you can change it day over night. Sometimes you need 3 sessions to show the parents and the teacher how to follow the child. They hire me for 10, and they take me out after the 3rd one. My colleague, Marleen Jansen, is really great on that. Okay, the next one, we should go to a picture. Now, okay, so going back to Andrew, observe very carefully the state, the biological state of the child. Nervous, stressed, relaxed, alert, drowsy. It's all listed as a checklist in the book. So, and then I ask the mother, is the child behaving normal in the circumstances? And you said, he's aware of people around him. It's a little bit exciting. When you have said, oh my gosh, he's not himself. He's so aware of you being here. And of course, as a parent, I'm different too. Then you must first go back to the normal state. Give yourself time, because when you are rushed, you don't get anywhere. When you say to your child going for school, you be quiet, you know, the opposite effect. Of course, we spoke about the preferred areas of learning, because when you have preference for hearing, for touch, vision, that means that that part of the brain processes the information. Not to forget the memory. In this case, Andrew went to sleep because I could relax him. And somebody asked, should he be awakened? Is that a good word, awakened? What was my answer? When the child goes to sleep, should be. What's your answer to this?
Your question, I didn't hear you.
All right, so let's go there. When the child goes to sleep, during your assessment, should he be waking up, or would you let him sleep?
I would let him sleep.
Why?
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 I think you would. I would let the child sleep, just because if that's their natural routine and that maybe their shutdown mode, maybe we've overstimulated and they're trying to calm themselves back down or remove themselves from the situation.
She said, Dr. Van Dyke, that she would probably let the child sleep because she would assume that the child was overstimulated, that whatever was being taught to the child, that they had overstimulated the child. So would let the child sleep until he woke up.
Why is sleeping so important? Why is sleep so important? Yeah. Think about that.
The sleep would give the child an opportunity to recharge, to process the information that has been taught.
My last question before I retired as professor was, why it is so important that the child has a comfortable chair? Because we know now from sleep studies, I'm very interested in that during sleep, there's enormous activation of the learning process going on in the brain. And all these rubella kids, I understand now with the sleep disturbances, you can understand that our learning is continuously interrupted by sleepless periods. In the deep sleep, our brain collects and helps to integrate the previous knowledge. I don't think we have that on it. But afterwards, when Andrew awoke after only 5-6 minutes, Bert and I, we both had the idea that he remembered the previous event. Of course, you cannot have your child sleeping for the whole day, but it's important to note that sleeping, relaxing in between, what I do myself, sit just in a chair. Don't do anything, sit for 5 or 6 minutes. Research has shown very effective for retaining the information. So that's the answer for my comfortable chair. The child don't need to be active all the time. And we will see the results in 10 years from our iPad generation. I worry because the brain never gets to rest. We will see that, but research now on this modern devices is undecisive. New experience with existing schemes. Very important is problem-solving approaches. You all will see that. And last but not least, the social formation. The social being able to connect. I move a little bit on so we see some pictures. Can we move on? The attachment and the way the child communicates. When we see a full assessment, we go over by using your summary form, okay? Now, this is Hannah from Salt Lake City. And you see moments of following the child. Okay? Let's show it. Okay?
And I will start talking very gently, just calling out her Anna, 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 Anna. You disturb.
Complete silence.
Anna, 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 Anna. Which is typical. Turning away the head. Yeah. Anna, 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 Anna. Anna, 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 Anna. Anna, 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 Anna. Anna, 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 Anna. Anna, 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 Anna.
Sitting quietly on a mother's lap, just listening to me, staring to the ceiling, and then gradually becoming more interested. And when I followed her movements, she really turned on and became full of initiative. In psychological terms, you can see that both very important processes of learning. Learning is built on three pillars: classical condition, operant condition, and imitation. We speak about that at length. So here you see that both processes are easily to establish. Following, but then she took initiative herself, and I followed her. So I can say, writing the IEP, I can come up with a lot of nice events, nice exercises to sing together, to leave her initiative and said, we are sing today, we have 1, 2, 3 DVDs, she make the choice, and I respond to it. So in a little clip like that, you already can establish her learning, the best preferred way of learning and teaching her. As a matter of fact, she's after that. Not after, but she's developing nice. Okay, may I have the next one? I would like to tell a little bit about this, about Brian. His name is Brian. As we have today, there are children with metabolic disorders who have a short life expectancy. And Andrew is one of them. And after my introduction, we'll ask the parents, both father and mother, to talk a little bit about it. Brian is Zellweger syndrome, and that's a different syndrome than San Filippo, but in here the fatty acids build up, and I think they do not excrete, and they have a swollen liver, and finally, between 1 and 3 years, they die, but now there is some oil to compensate for that, and to my surprise, we have still children 18, 20, 25 years with us. Is a special group, special parents. And we happen to have quite a bit of juvenile refsum, is the same thing, and Zellweger children. And we have opened a special unit for that in order to assure, together with the parents and very sensitive nurses and teachers, that their years with us are quality years, are really quality years. And we do that a long time, and it is also very important to prepare the parents that one day the child will not be with us, and that they anticipate on a different life. We really look after the mourning state, the grief state, very early. And then it has shown me that parents can do a lot for parents. Even when the child has deceased, has died, we keep the parents on board. Would you be, after your first grief has gone away, would you be so kind to help other parents? And the only thing you can do is to stand back and let the process grow. Very important is, and now found also that religious parents, although it's not so much in other patients, but I've been in this group of 10, 15, sometimes of 50, sometimes that religious parents have some extra support in their life. But it demands quite a bit, a good organization, very sensitive thing to help and monitor this group. We always go for quality of life, but particularly in these children. And yes. No, Zora.
I just wanted to ask you quickly. I have a baby on my caseload now who is diagnosed with Zellweger. She's about 18 months old, but I'm very interested in what you mean by quality of life. That's what our team is struggling with.
Well, let's have the video, Niels.
Ryan, here's een stokje.
I try to follow him. He's on the vibrating board, as you see. Try to get in his rhythm. He makes a mouth movement.
Zullen we ook een beetje zingen? Jij, 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 ja. Maar een beetje praten. Jij, 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 jij.
Okay. Was it rewarding? It was rewarding. What do you think I advised? I advised to have a balloon, to sing with your voice on the balloon, that he gets the vibrations, particularly from his mother's voice, from his father's voice, and hear the difference. And what you could not hear, at a certain moment, he stops. He stops completely. And only when I saw this old tape back, I knew what it was. The mother was talking in the background where she was watching the assessment. So despite the hearing loss, he was so attached to the mother's voice and the vibration and the singing, and here we go, you have quality of life when you introduce singing and vibrations, mother talking gently to the child, and he would really smile. Really? He stayed with us 1 year more. The parents are very grateful. They have made the Brian Foundation. They live in Switzerland as owners of a nice hotel, and still very active in organizations concerning the children with a short life expectancy. So an assessment like, and I'm glad that I can talk to you, because you meet every day such a child, of every week. You look in the assessment, so I found that vibrations, then you go to the balloon, and then you have your child close to you, and you feel the vibration of your chest, and then you say, Mother, come on, let's do it together. And every time when there is a smile, I score a smile. For your eyepiece, you need check. And I would put on top, for this child, how many smiles a day? What's your goal? 5. I make a little bit fun of it, but you understand that. You understand that through assessment, you find rewarding areas. It's always rewarding areas, which makes not only the child feel happy and comfortable, but what about the environment? So of course they came all the way from Switzerland asking, how can we communicate? Well, you can communicate by joining in, by singing, by moving. No, but I mean sign language, speech, because he tries that. It's exhausting because, as you know, this is a miracle that he can keep on going so long because he wants to interact. Normally, they are always very, very tired, aren't they? And so after the assessment, he has really to sleep for the rest of the day to recover. Yeah, you know, of course, how the children go. But this shows that through assessment, particularly in very, very complex children, we always think in cognition, language. This is communication. All he wants to express, he expresses himself, and he's expressing, he's telling, hey, guy, do something, I like that. That's wonderful communication. No, I mean work. No, this is the basis of communication. Don't go any further. The thing is, all our teaching methods, whether for typical, non-typical children, are very cognitive. And the first curriculum based on emotions has to be written. If you can tell me, you get a free book. The first curriculum in which deals with the most important thing of our human existence, emotions. How to involve the child emotionally. But that's what you have to do. So I pity you, and I pity myself, because there is nothing on the whole earth working with these children, and with her children, and with your boy, which tell you what to do. If you can show me, I'm the first one to buy and think, okay. Think about that. Think about that. Nothing what is basic in our life, the quality is how we feel about things. Not what we know. And we have the simple, naive idea that this is related with language, with express. You can express yourself in 100 ways without words, signs, pictures, and the whole thing. Yeah. Thank you. It's time for. We take 50 minutes. Interpret. Thank you. That went on so long. You're welcome.
We will take a 15-minute break. For those of you streaming, please also take a break and note that we'll pick back up online just as on-site in a few minutes.
And Brian. We'll do it together, a joint presentation. They know me. Will you tell about yourself? Yep.
I'm Ellen Bowman from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I'm the mother of Andrew and Simon. Andrew is 18 and Simon is 22 at the University of Alabama. And married to the wonderful husband of, my husband is wonderful. His name is Brian Bowman. You'll see him. He's going to go get Andrew right now. And I could tell you all the other stuff about me. Don't want to take away from Andrew, but because of part of my frustration of getting the correct services for my children, I was previously an interpreter for the deaf before I had Andrew. And later, Simon has also had a visual impairment. I'm now a teacher for the visually impaired and orientation and mobility specialist, and currently working on my PhD. So that's me in a nutshell, but I guess my biggest role and my greatest role is being the mom to Andrew and Simon.
He will be here, yeah. He will be decided at the last minute because he feels okay to have him here. There's nothing more real than the real life, isn't it? Both parents are here, and we worked yesterday quite a bit with them, and we had a videotape. The sounds, I'm sorry to say that, but these things happen, are a little bit low, but we both can explain what's
Sure.
going on. In order to cut the time a little bit, everybody wants to know what is your son like, and it starts always a little bit with the medical history, doesn't it? Can you tell?
Yes. I always like to say that Andrew, if he didn't have Sanfilippo syndrome, he'd be a hunter out in the woods and probably a bookworm in the library, because he loves being outdoors, he loves animals, and he loves books. So I like to say that first. But he does have a very rare genetic disease. It's called mucopolysaccharidosis disorder. I'll let you guess at that. Sanfilippo syndrome, which is a progressive neurological disease that causes severe mental and physical regression in early death. Andrew was fortunate to have a bone marrow transplant when he was 4 years old in hopes of getting the enzyme to his brain to stop the progression of the neurological disease. He was diagnosed at 14 months old, and we started out initially with a hearing loss. And I thought that was the worst thing in the world, being an interpreter, and then now having a deaf child. So actually, that would have probably been the best case scenario. He's regressed significantly. He was probably around 4 or 5 years old. He really dropped off cognitively shortly after the bone marrow transplant and has progressed since then. He has a lot of medical issues, seizures, orthopedic issues, he's had some pneumonia, he has respiratory problems. He sees every kind of doctor there is except a gynecologist. I said, I really need to worry if they send us to that specialist. But we are fortunate to have great medical staff and also wonderful teachers and therapists, and his whole IEP team is here today, which makes me extremely proud that they care enough about him to follow along in Andrew's progression of his disease to hope to allow him to communicate on the best level possible. When he was younger, he did have a very elaborate communication system. Of course, he started out with sign language before he was actually diagnosed with a hearing loss, and was a very fluent signer. And we added in picture symbols because we wanted to have the most concrete ability to communicate with him, and moved on to augmentative communication devices to give him a total communication approach. And then as the disease slowly progressed, we've had to change gears. And so that's the reason why we're here today, is to change another gear in his communication approach. So that's in a nutshell.
Okay. As I said, we taped him. We selected, with the help of Jessica, a few clips, 2 large clips, a small one. And before he comes in, we show, and we can, shall I give you a chair? You want to sit?
I'm good.
You're good.
I'm
Oh,
good.
you
Are
can
you good?
sit there.
Okay.
I don't want you to sit. Okay. And, yeah. So if you look to your summary form, I think I have sent it, if you have downloaded. The most important thing, as I mentioned, is, can you all see the screen? We were very fortunate to do it in your home. And as I said, I asked how Andrew felt about it, and you said he's a little bit over it, but not that he is not willing to, that he's too much stressed. See, as I mentioned myself, I am a copycat, so I observed how you make contact with your son. And also I asked the dad how he interacted with your son. And having absorbed this, I moved in, and that's the part, hopefully, which comes out, what you are going to see. Shall we try how it comes out?
Do you feel that he's at ease at this moment?
Can you see that?
No, not really. How can you be that?
Can you give comments?
Yeah, right here, I believe Dr. Van Dijk is just observing Andrew. Brian is explaining about how he knows that Andrew is a little bothered, and Andrew frowns his brows when he's not always comfortable, or when he's trying to figure out what's going on. So this is just Dr. Van Dijk just observing him and talking with Andrew. Andrew's drinking a sippy cup.
Andrew, he is a strange man. You are listening to the man. Good morning, Andrew.
Dr. Van Dijk is talking to Andrew about how you know, how good his sippy cup is and what he's drinking from the cup.
Let me talk to you. He has a strange voice. He has a strange voice.
So he's just continuing to talk to him and about what he's doing and
Listen to him.
telling him he's a good boy and was speaking very positive words to Andrew.
Good morning, Andrew.
And as you probably, I don't know if you can see, there's a little bit of sound there, but he was just saying, good morning, Andrew, you're a good boy. That juice cup is really good. And every now and then Andrew would gaze in his direction. My husband has his hand on Andrew's knee.
Good morning.
And Dr. Van Dyke had asked my husband to greet Andrew. So he greeted Andrew. And of course, Andrew gazes at my husband. So Brian's continuing just to talk with Andrew and telling him hello and hello, you know, good morning. And now I'm greeting Andrew, and Dr. Van Dyke picked up how I typically talk to Andrew. I pick up his hand and kiss his hand multiple times. And so, of course, Andrew turns to me and acknowledges that I'm there. And I'm continuing just to tell him good morning and that, you know, I'm his mom and I'm here with him. And so during this time, Dr. Van Dyke is observing our interaction with Andrew. And Andrew gazes back at me while he's drinking a sippy cup. Andrew loves to hold hands, and he will hold hands just about with anyone. Because he is just about with anyone. He will also use his hands to push you away too. So I'm continuing to hold hands with him while Dr. Van Dyke is talking to him. He's singing, Dr. Van Dyke is singing to Andrew right now.
Aren't you smiling?
Of course, talking about what he's doing, which is currently drinking from his sippy cup. And Andrew just had a little bit of a smile on that. I know the video is a little poor, but Andrew just had a smile there, which is a rarity for Andrew. So he just smiled just a little bit. And he's gazing back and forth to Dr. Van Dyke.
Make me so happy. La, 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 la.
He's singing now.
Yes. Holding the hands of your mom.
Dr. Van Dyke is singing to him,
You feel good.
just in a rhythmic,
She's a wonderful mom.
the same rhythmic song.
A wonderful mom. Aren't you a wonderful mom, Mom? Wendy?
And he's talking to him about that his mom was holding his hand, and I kissed his hand again and kissed it again. And of course, Andrew's looking at me. He doesn't look really happy, but he really is.
She loves you so much.
And he's telling him that, you know, I love him so much, which is true. So he's listening to Dr. Van Dyke and also looking back at me.
Will you now give your hand to your dad? Yes?
So now Brian takes his hand and is holding Andrew's hand, and is engaging with Andrew again.
Big boy.
Brian's talking with him, telling him good morning, and of course, Andrew's gazing back. I really think in Andrew's head, he's probably wondering, why are we sitting? Because that's not something we always do, is sit and talk with him. But he's gazing back and forth between Dr. Van Dyke and my husband. So at this point, Dr. Van Dyke, Brian hands Andrew's hand over to Dr. Van Dyke. And Andrew touches his hand,
You allow me to hold your hand?
kind of grasps on a little bit of his finger, but he's not gazing at Dr. Van Dyke just yet.
Thank you so much. I am
So he strokes his finger and
touching,
talks with him.
touching,
He also gets a little bit closer to Andrew,
touching,
which is pretty important for him.
touching.
You can tell he's really listening. He's really still, and then he gazes back and forth to Dr. Van Dyke.
See that on your mouth.
Before Andrew was doing some rocking and some holding his juice cup up, and when Dr. Van Dyke starts talking to him, you can tell that he's no longer engaged in the juice cup, but yet engaged in what Dr. Van Dyke is doing and also touching his hand. While he's not making eye contact, he's holding onto his hand and feeling the pressure of Dr. Van Dyke's thumb on his fingers. While Dr. Van Dyke is singing to him.
I want to join in with his movements. You see, is making. I modulate my voice and my pressure according to his movements. When he's still, I'm completely silent myself, waiting for his response.
Yes.
And then he starts squeezing my hands as a form of interaction.
Yes.
And I start making the movements myself. When he presses on my hand, I press back on it with my thumb on his hand.
Thank you.
And then he looks at me. Huh? Aha,
Good man.
that's the big moment. I gaze.
Hello, Andrew. Good morning. Yeah, now you see him.
Even with limited vision,
Wonderful.
it's so important for social interaction to meet each other's eyes.
Yes, and you, yes. You talk to me with your hands. Yes.
And I describe his face. I said, now you're moving your lips. Very good. Touch and touch you. And then I start
Yes,
to
yes, you like that.
elicit emotions, and I talk about that later, by laughing loudly.
Touching. Touch. Touch. And you can look in my face. Yeah, you could do that.
Was that a smile? That was a big one.
That was the big smile.
That was a big smile.
I think.
See,
Yeah.
these are my 5 smiles. Eh?
Yeah. 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 Oh, yes. Yes. Good. Good. Okay. Okay. Yep. Yep.
I will explain later during the day why this joining in is neurologically so important.
Yes. You're squeezing my hand. Squeezing my
I
hand.
squeeze his hand now,
Squeeze and squeeze.
and you notice that I'm all the time talking
Squeeze.
because my intonation
Can you watch my face again?
is so important for the emotional brain, not to threaten him, but to invite him to approach me, to share our emotions. And the rhythm is crucial in that. Repeating and rhythm. And see, there were moments when I made exaggerate mouth movements that he tried to follow me. That following is the thing which I want to get.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm have a little bit cold, you know. And sometimes I.
Okay. When he comes in, I'll try to do it, see whether he remembers something. Yeah? But you have seen how careful I am before approaching a person like Andrew, whether they are babies or grown-ups or people with other brain issues. It's always wrong that you go at them, talk to them, you know, before you have observed the parents first. And I don't tell me I've had bad experience in that, people just jumping at it, and, you know, with this multisensory impairment, you don't know what he really grasps. And I want always to protect the amygdala. The amygdala is the warning organ in our brain. And if you make one mistake, listen, if you make one mistake, throw off the whole thing, sometimes for always. You might have experienced that one good feeling person did the wrong thing at the wrong time and is completely abandoned from Andrew's life. Yeah? In one of the DVD, I worked with a boy from Minnesota, London, and he was nicely developing for years, and then there was an OT with a dog called Ernie from one of your terrible shows, Ernie, and the child was with all his tubes in a wheelchair, and this person came with a squeaking damn thing, and you saw that the boy was completely petrified, and for 2 years, his progress stopped. And only per accident, reviewing all the tapes, we could find the reason. And even when, after 2 years, the mother would say the name of that OT person, he froze. One terrible accident, traumatic experience, can determine the rest of people's life. Think on child abuse. Think on child abuse. It is a way of child abusing, and telling you about our stress research has told me to be even more careful as I was. So I think that often when you go to hospitals and wherever people you meet, you would say, hands off from my son. And you don't know when this warning system fires up. And deep in the brain, that information is stored, and sometimes it generalizes to all sorts of people and situations, right? So be sensitive, be careful, and just one of our friends here told me about a child of hers with 2 weeks with all severe operation in the hospital, and said, I thought, oh, what a trauma. The biggest trauma you have still, and there might be a medical reason to have splints. When I came to this country, children with self-abuse, they were on splints. Try to put it on yourself so you know that this leads to enormous frustration. In our country, it's already forbidden for 10, 15 years, that you, by law, but still people are so desperate, they're not that, in this case, for medical reasons, otherwise you would take the bandage away, etc. But I still see, not too long ago, and I think they hide away quite a few children and adults who they strap, when they abuse themselves, without really searching for the cause, and the cause is traumatic experience. It brings to a complete different story. But that's what I do in my free time. I consult in places, also for the elderly with self-abusing people. And it's always the trauma I'm looking for. And it can be a granddad with sexual wrong intentions, sometimes a dog, sometimes a new partner in the house, who is not very sensitive, and it builds up a lot of negative feelings. Please prevent that. Please prevent, and I know now, although, hello, how are you, nicely, etc. It might sound friendly, but one breath, one touch can cause a lot of damage. There is our friend, and I know you like, and I said to the mother, I wonder whether he remembers me. That would be nice, wouldn't it? So if that's okay with you, I'm going to greet him. And I always ask the parents, what do you think? Will he remember?
I think you will.
Yeah, that's it. I agree with you. Give him time to adjust. Is this the nurse?
Yes,
Oh,
that's
that's-
our awesome angel.
Yeah. Okay, so an angel is coming. So, Brian, where do you want? Is that the best place? I think so, if you don't mind. See, I didn't know, but this is a suggestion, and you are open, you should be flexible. And I'll just always start. And I watch how he looks. Oh, even more. That's more than I expected. Uh-huh. Okay, well, all right. So, I do normally say, I always sit around with the parents. Yep. Both parents there. And see how they greet.
He's grinding his teeth a little bit.
Excuse me?
He's grinding his teeth.
All right, I hear that.
Yeah.
That means a little bit stress.
Did you miss me this morning? Yeah.
Is this nervous or happiness? Hi. Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's
You watched me. I saw that.
I know, you see?
How do you interpret his feelings now?
I think he's happy.
I think so
I think
too.
he's
eh?
happy.
He's happy, yeah? I think he's happy. He's still grinding a little bit, but no, in general, yeah, a little bit. Yes. Remember the man. Wow. Yes. And he looked back. Wow, I've seen you before. See if he comes back. So I'll wait as long as he gives me a spontaneous look, but he knows that I'm here now. Oh, yes. Hi, Brian. Andrew. Okay. Yes. You're reaching out your hand. You see, every movement I make, I respond to. You are reaching out your hand to the man. You are reaching out your hand. Don't forget that the child had almost normal language. Huh? You are reaching out. You are, yes, sir, here we are. Look at this. He's touching my hand. He's touching my hand. Yes, sir. That was good. Wow. He was touching, yeah. And you're happy. We all can see that. We all can see that. And you're touching your mother's hand. Ya la 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 la, la 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 lo. Andrew, touching mother's hand. Contra, la 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 la. Contra, la 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 la. La 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 la. He was reaching out, so I keep bumping in the language. Huh? You are reaching out and you're touching my hand, and you're touching your mom's hand. That makes me very happy. Yeah, and you too. I can see it. It makes you very, very happy. It makes you, yes, sir. You was watching my face. You were watching my face. Okay. Andrew, good boy. Andrew, yes. Andrew, good boy, yes. Your mom is here. Yes, that's your mom. Yes, you look to him, and can you move a little bit so he can see you easily? We did not get that yesterday. And your dad is talking to you now.
Hey, big boy. Hey, Andrew. What are you doing? Huh? Hey. 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 Hey, what are you doing? Huh? Huh?
Okay, your mom is here. Yes, and your dad is here. And the man is here, and you're holding his hand very firmly. Thank you. Holding, pressing my hand. Pressing, pressing, pressing my hand. From pressing my hand. From pressing my hand. Wow, you're holding my hand very nicely. Shall I sing again? You press my hand. From pressing, tra la la. Yes, from pressing, tra la la. Yes, your dad? And your mom? Your mom is here too? Dad and mom are here. And your dad is holding your hand. And you're holding my fingers. Holding my fingers. Holding my fingers. Holding, ho. Holding, ho. Holding, holding, holding. Holding, holding, holding. Holding, do. Holding my fingers. Holding my fingers. That's you, Dad. Holding my fingers. Holding you. Yes, you press on it. Very good. Thank you for press. Oh, again. Again. Wow. Mom, you see that? He's pressing. Oh, he's pressing. Oh, he's pressing hard. Wow. Oh, yo, again. Again. Wow. He can press my fingers. Again and again. You again. Ooh, he's strong man. He's strong man pressing the fingers of. Wow. Oh, again. Ay, 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 ay. So, all the time pressing on my fingers. Yes, you hold on. You hold on. What about another song? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. My hand is on your knee. My hand is on your knee. Very good.
You didn't like that song, did you?
No, that was too low. Now, I will ask him to put his hand back. What do you think? Andrew, will you give me your hand, please? Will you give me your hand? Yes? Put your hand in mine. Yes, 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 yes. Very good. Will you give? Yes. Yes. Will you give me your hand? Will you give me your hand? All right. No? You don't want it. That's okay. That's okay. Here's my hand. He's frowning. Wow. Did I do anything wrong? Andrew. Andrew. You want to touch my hand? Yes. Yes, here's the man again. Yes. 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 Yeah. Wow. Remember me from yesterday. Remember me from yesterday. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh, yes, we're making contact now, eh? We are making contact now. You looked at me, and that makes me very, very happy. Happy, 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 po, yeah. People, 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 happy. Yeah. Wow, thank you. Happy people, happy people. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh. Yeah, hello, little man. How are you today? Can we still listen, laugh? Yes, it's a different situation, isn't it? Good morning. Good morning. Can we laugh together? Can we ha 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 ha? Can you smile? Yes, I can smile. I can smile. I can smile. Yes, I can smile. You come close. You come close. Yes, you want to make contact. You come very close. We are good friends, aren't we? Yes. Yes. Andrew, you are so good. You are so good. You are my man. Wow. Yes, 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 you are my man. See. Oh, wow. Wow. You are, you are, you are so great. You are so great, man. Wow. I like you so much. I like you so much. I like you so much. I like you. I like. Yes, that's what I did. That. May I touch also you? Right. I'm touching you. Lips. Touch. 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 Touching the lips. 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 That's good. I stop with it. That was very intense. And touching the nose. Touching the nose. Yes, you talk to me. Touching the nose. The nose or the lips? Yes, yes. May I touch your lip? See? Yeah. And now touch my lip. May I touch your lips too? Touching the lips. Wonderful, Andrew. Wow. And you looked at me, and you allowed me to touch your lips, and you looked at me for a long time. Yes, yes. And you lift your eyebrows. Wow. And you open your eyes for me. You open, yes, sir, open your eyes. You open your eyes. You open your eyes. Which is very good. Yes, 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 Andrew. Yes, yes. And your mom is still here. Hi, Mom. And your dad is still here. Good boy. Hey, hey. He's good, isn't he? He's really good.
You did so good, Andrew.
Yeah, good.
Stop grinding his teeth.
Still
There
is.
it's going.
I'm sorry. Yes, you look to my hand. May I have your hand once more? Yes. I'm happy too when you look to me. Hey. Yes. Yeah. I will. Yes. I will reestablish contact. He's fidgeting. Yes. Will you hold my hand? Ah, look at this. Look at this. Look at this, ma'am. Going up and going down. Yes. Going up and going down. Yes. Going up and down and yes, up and down, up, down, up, down, up, yes, and down. Up, down, yes, you're doing very nicely. And you press on my fingers. I press, and now I press your hand. And now I'll take out of the blue. I ask you, Andrew, will you look to your mom? Will you look to your mom? Will you look to your mom? Where's mom? Look to your mom. Look to your mom. Yes, yes. Let's see if he follows my pointing. Ah, hello, ma'am. See if I can guide his gaze. Yes, you. Ah, okay. You. This would be nice way for the vision teacher to work on guided gaze, huh? I think follows my finger, yeah. Perhaps I think the right side is better than the left. Don't you think so?
Yes.
Yeah. So we could sit at this side. Yes. Yes. You follow my fingers. You follow my fingers. You follow my fingers. It's hard for that vision, but he does. Would you think it would be possible to, when you are close, to guide his gaze to you or to another person? That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? He wants to relax now. He wants to relax now. Yes, he wants to relax. He wants to relax. He uses his juice cup for relaxing. Yeah. A juice cup.
Yes.
Is the nurse here?
Charlene, do we have his juice cup?
I heard wonderful things about you. Why don't you sit down for a minute and tell us a little bit what you think about your angel?
He's very special.
He's very, tell us in what way you think he's special.
He's one of a kind. He does hold my hands.
He holds your hands.
He does.
And he knows who you are
He does by my voice.
by your voice.
Yes.
Because as you have heard, and you love with my voice, you also sing with them.
No, I don't sing. I
And he
know.
likes your voice, he likes to sing it even more.
Okay.
How do you talk? You have to. Would you talk to him? I would like to hear your voice. Forget about these people. You know, I did the same. They all love you and they're all in the field and they understand. But I want to see when
Okay.
you talk. Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning, Andrew. Hey, man. Good morning. How's Andrew feeling this morning? How's Andrew feeling this morning, man? Hey, man. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Andrew. How's Andrew feeling this morning? Hey, man. Hey, Andrew.
Does he watch your face sometimes when you are interacting with him like that?
He does.
Yeah. And when you smile and laugh, you join in with that. Yeah. I can
He
see that.
does.
He
Yeah.
does that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the way, like you're showing us now, you interact with him, talking gently and making movements. Is that your ritual, so to speak?
It is.
It is.
Yes.
Do you have other ways to come in contact with him? You talk to him, you make movements, and that's the way you interact with him.
I do.
Have you other ways to play with him? It's mostly person to person.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. How long are you working with him?
12 hours.
But I mean, how many years or months or?
Going on 3 years.
Over 3 years.
Yes.
And I'm sorry to ask, but do you see that he loses gradually his skills? Or is he more or less at the same level?
He's on the same level.
All right, so that's very, you agree with that?
Over the last, yes, Charlene's come on, yeah.
Okay, okay, so.
We increased, like we probably said before, about 6 months ago when we changed the seizure medication,
Yeah.
we gained a whole lot of alertness.
Yeah,
and
alertness, maybe.
Alertness and,
Sorry.
and communication and him being more active.
That's your experience too, madam, that the change of medication makes a huge difference.
Right.
Right, right. What would you think as being the most important thing for him to do or to discuss? Because you know him also so good.
Mm-hmm.
I always want to talk to people who have more knowledge than myself.
Charlie's not much of a talker though.
No, but you're doing good. He's sitting here. You did not expect that, to getting on stage.
Right.
Yesterday we had Fox Television, but they don't always. But the things you are doing with them are like this, just
Right.
baby type of things. Talking, moving,
Right.
smiling.
Mm-hmm.
Do you sometimes ask to do things?
He does.
He
Yeah.
does. And I'm surprised with his long, yesterday, your long gaze, and he looks at you and etc. Do you consider that as an important thing? You feel then that he is with you, right? That he is a human being. Yeah, that Okay. So, and that makes you happy too.
Right.
That makes you happy too. Me too. You feel that you have met a person.
Right.
And you have brought a person. So, but I'm glad to hear that we did not discuss that yesterday, but that you all agreed that he is at pretty much the same level for quite some time. Huh? For quite some time. All right. Okay. I watch what you are doing. He was very consistent in squeezing my fingers when he wants to. Yeah, he's he likes that sort of interaction, eh? Yeah, because one of the questions you were said to me yesterday, yeah, but the mother asked, how can we communicate? And I changed a little bit. How can we interact? But that's this way you are doing with him to make contact and singing and watching your face, which is important. Are he doing this or you're doing both? He's doing this, eh? He likes that to behold.
Doing it.
So now he's pulling at you.
You find him most of the time a happy boy too?
Yes.
Yes. Why is that? Why is he so happy, so content?
He has a happy family.
All right. He has a happy family. Or he has a happy nurse too. But you say the truth.
Yes.
You say the truth.
Yes.
Nothing else than the truth. Yes, you say a happy family involved. Why is he not stressed? He's not, a little bit, but he could bruising himself.
Right.
You're right. Why is he so relaxed?
His atmosphere.
atmosphere, always atmosphere. When you push him around, he will be stressed easily. But you have found, if I may say so, the right balance. But one day is not the other day. Are there moments you can remember that he was stressed? That something very peculiar happened in the house, we cannot control life completely, can we? Do you remember that there was a bad day, that he was upset, or is he always like this?
Mostly.
Mostly, yes. Yes.
When he gets sick, he gets.
When he's feeling uncomfortable, in his body. Yeah. Hospital visits, he does not like that particularly, I think. How does he respond to a hospital visit?
Typically, when he's in the hospital, he's pretty sick.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Lethargic. Normally, when he's in the hospital, he's lethargic. He doesn't move much, doesn't do much.
But you do not have, let's say, that when he's in the hospital, that afterwards he's less comfortable.
yes, and we're packing up, ready to go home.
Yeah.
We finished treatment, at home.
Yeah. Or you finish, you make it as short as possible. Okay. Madam, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
Do you have children of your own?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I thought I got that, but yeah. How old are they? How old are your children?
26, 24, 13, and 15.
All right. Do you often think back how you treated them as a baby when you deal with them? Right. So a lot of your motherly skills you're using with him. Yeah. All right. Okay. Are there any questions from the audience on the mother and what's your name again?
Charlene.
Charlene, the nurse. Any questions of the team? What did you see in comparison with yesterday? May I ask you one? You are the head teacher.
What I saw?
Yeah.
I loved your waiting. You could almost, I think, see him thinking. When you did something and then he checked with his parents and then looked back to see what you were doing. And then as you talked, he was engaged with you. And I was watching my watch and it was 30 minutes, which I think is a long time for a little guy to attend. I don't know what he was learning in that situation, but I think maybe the first thing we learn is getting the learner's attention. For 30 minutes, I thought that was great.
The goal is, and I don't know, by really engaging in him, his attention, his brain is full empower. The thing is, like in Alzheimer's patients, when we do the adequate stimulation, can we keep the brain longer in shape? And that's why I ask, is he going down? It appears that through, I think, the ideal situation, comparing with other children of Sanfilippo syndrome, but I know there are individual differences, how the enzymes work and so forth. I think it is a realistic goal to continue the input as we are doing now. Don't go for high cognitive skills, but you see how much interaction, eye gaze, and enjoyment there is. Enjoyment there is. That would be, if you talk about IEP, I would write that down. To keep his condition constant by interacting, eye gazing, and in particularly, him giving the initiative. Because gradually, he was really pressing on my hand, clearly at the subconscious level, indicating, my boy, I like to be in command. I like you to do what I want. I am not at the mercy of you. You know, you are following me. So that might give a very important booster for the rewarding system. I am in control. That's very rewarding. That's why we want always to be the president of the United States, right? We want to be in control. What would you want to say, sir?
You know, you had mentioned neuroscience earlier on, and as you were playing with him, I could almost see that little neural pathway getting stronger and stronger and stronger, that practice, that positive practice. I'm so glad to hear you talk about that in taking our practice to a more scientific level. And I was going to ask his parents about things that you notice that are other signs of engagement, that he wants more or he likes it, and signs that I've had enough, I want to stop. What do you notice that teachers could learn from?
I would say, I guess, he pushes away. That's probably one of the biggest things. And he also will reach out. He likes to engage with your face a lot. I used to say when he grew up he would want to be a dentist because he's really fascinated with the mouth, and so those are probably the two things that I think. Do you have anything else to add?
Whenever he wants, you were saying if he wants something, how do we know? Because he can't verbalize it, of course, but he will stare, focus on it a lot. He'll look at it like his juice cup. If it were sitting up here in this chair and he wanted it, he would probably stare at it, and then he would stare at it long enough, he would even lean forward, and even though he's not asking for it, and even though he's not reaching for it, he's kind of getting closer. And so I know that sounds simple, like everybody does that, but for some reason, sometimes we miss that, We just think he's jerking or reacting, but if you watch him, he's really getting closer. So, and then the opposite's true. If he doesn't want you, he will start getting away,
That's his main approach and withdrawal are the basic things. And then it's very important to respond to that. When at a certain moment he didn't want to touch my hand, then you have to decide and tell him, I understand that you no longer want to continue. And I literally push back my chair. So he knows that with his severe physical condition, that he still can be in command of the situation. In other words, that people listen to him. I think that's the essential thing. People listen to him. And you know how he indicates it. And by pulling back, by leaning back, and because that lip thing was very intensive and intruding very deep in his private space. But still he likes it. He still allowed it to a certain moment. I could read his face, that's enough. But showing yourself what you're doing is really interesting. So we discussed that yesterday too, and perhaps the little tape will help us to show still things, how they are done. Okay, we have that on the tape, right? the thing with the bottles. Yep, okay. Any questions? Any questions? How to very carefully develop, and then, as this colleague says, when he responds, continue, and then it becomes stronger. And I agree, if we had brain readings of that, we will see that the brain makes more and more connection. I know that we are fighting a losing battle, but we'll never give up. We never give up on that. You're tapping on my hand? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she wants a little. Yeah, shall we have, before we continue, a break?
It's actually time for the lunch break, too. He never gets tired, y'all.
A lunch, how you spell it? Okay, that would be a nice time to break up and do a little bit of him afterwards, and then we go to more or less structured assessment of Iris and following a little bit the book.
And if you will, let me just make one quick logistical announcement. For those of us here on site, please don't park after lunch in the back section where the buses park, the yellow spots and the two last parking spaces. We've got children loading the buses this afternoon after lunch. And then also remember, after lunch, you will go to the second segment on YouTube for those of you who are streaming. And everyone, please submit your evaluation forms at the end after lunch this evening. I may not have a chance to announce that again at the end of the workshop. And when you submit your evaluation form, you will receive a certificate of attendance, regardless of whether you're streaming, participating via streaming, or on site today. And we'll adjourn back at approximately 1:15 Central Standard Time.
Yep.